This morning, Israel launched new airstrikes on Lebanon, and a new video released showcases the moment that the editor in chief of Maria International Network, Fadi Boudieh, was injured live on air during those airstrikes. So the video is not graphic. He apparently is okay, but I'm going to break down after this the recent news around Israel's strikes on Lebanon, as well as what a high ranking former Obama White House official is saying about Israel's recent actions.
والله أنا هلأ والله كنت على سكايب.
All right. So it appears he was getting ready for a live hit when the building he was in was struck. This was part of the Israeli strikes that killed 492 people in Lebanon. And the IDF claiming here that the strikes were directed at Hezbollah rockets and cruise missiles hidden inside civilian homes. Does this sound familiar? This gives justification for literally any action that they do. Oh, we had to bomb these residential buildings because there were rockets in there. They could hit any target and claim this. This is what they've been doing over and over and over again in Gaza, despite the fact that there are well over 40,000 civilian casualties in Gaza. Now, while it's unclear, as Axios writes here, unclear how many of those killed were Hezbollah, a mass casualty event in Shia villages in southern Lebanon, the militia's base of support, will likely lead to further escalation. So I'm going to get to the pager attacks that occurred before this, but just to be clear on this attack. So out of the 492 people, that includes 35 children and 58 women, and it wounded 1,645 people. And that's according to the Associated Press. And this attack by Israel was in response to Hezbollah launching more than 100 rockets on a Saturday night, sending them, as CBS News writes here, hurtling deeper into northern Israel and towards civilian areas, according to the Israeli military, wounding 3 people. Now, look, any attack, of course, it cannot be justified. Any sort of violence, regardless of who is committing the violence, should not be justified. I just want you to look at the comparison here. Wounding 3 people versus 1,645 wounded and 492 people killed. So because of the technology that Israel has in terms of the Iron Dome, they're able to intercept the vast majority of these sorts of attacks, giving them almost full immunity in their ability to launch their own attacks, knowing full well that any sort of retaliatory action is never going to hit them the way that they're able to hit their neighboring, whether countries or occupied territories. Now, going back even further, last week, exploding pagers and radios, this is from the UN, a terrifying violation of international law, say UN experts. So this was Israel's operation in Lebanon that exploded pagers and radios. The attacks reportedly killed at least 32 people and maimed or injured 3,250, including 200 critically. Among the dead are a boy and a girl, as well as medical personnel. Around 500 people suffered severe eye injuries, including a diplomat. Others suffered grave injuries to their faces, hands, and bodies. So apparently the pagers were sent a message in small text, which led to a lot of the individuals here looking closely at the pager, which is what led to a lot of these eye injuries. And of course, these pagers were just randomly set off. So there was no awareness, or I should say regard, for who they were around at the time when they went off, which is what led to a lot of innocent people here being killed or injured in the process. Now, following that, the former CIA Director for Barack Obama, Leon Panetta, calls Israel's explosive pager operation terrorism in an interview with CBS Today. Watch this clip.
The United Nations labeled the operation a violation of international law, and it's raised some eyebrows here at home, too.
The ability to be able to place an explosive in technology that is very prevalent these days and turn it into a war of terror, really, a war of terror. This is something new.
Is it terrorism?
I don't think there's any question that it's a form of terrorism.
Former Defense Secretary and former Director of the CIA, Leon Panetta, wasted no words in describing what he fears may be the result of letting this particular genie out of the bottle.
This has gone right into the supply chain, right into the supply chain. And when you have terror going into the supply chain, it makes people ask the question, what the hell is next?
It sounds like you're genuinely worried.
I am. This is a tactic that has repercussions. And we really don't know what those repercussions are going to be.
At the very least, he's worried Israel's tactical decision has made the prospect of a wider war in the region closer than it's ever been.
The forces of war are largely in control right now of what's going on.
Do you think there should be condemnation for it? Should other nations step in, including us?
I think it's going to be very important for the nations of the world to have a serious discussion about whether or not this isn't an area that everybody has to focus on, because if they don't try to deal with it now, mark my word, it is the battlefield of the future.
This is a major warning. When you have a former CIA director saying the forces of war are largely in control right now, I mean, it shows you how off base the Biden administration is compared to the Obama administration, at least on this issue. Obama was a lot tougher on Israel. And I shouldn't even say tough. Tough is relative in this case. Tough compared to where Biden is. But these sorts of operations, as he alludes to here, the unleashing of this kind of technology in a wide-scale attack like this is a terrorist attack that has been taken up by a state, by the state of Israel. And now that they have unleashed this sort of attack, this opens the door to the potential of other similar attacks just like this. This is a situation where, you hope behind the scenes the Biden administration is trying to address in a serious way, because as far as we are seeing publicly, there has been no real change in their overall support of Israel, despite these sorts of terror attacks, these ongoing terror attacks by the state. And their intentions are clear. This is a piece in Haaretz. This is an Israel-based paper. Israeli minister claims Lebanon cannot be defined as a state. IDF should establish a buffer zone inside its territory. And when you have this sort of outlook, when this is your public stance, this justifies the sorts of attacks that Israel decides to carry out. And again, as long as the U.S. continues supporting Israel, supplying it with funding, supplying it with weapons, there is no reason for Israel to stop. Last thing here. I just saw this, thought it was worth sharing. This is a quote from, to be clear here, Catherine Bogan, who is a self-described queer Jewish woman, who writes here, for people who ask why Israel's neighboring countries aren't like the biggest fans, it's not because Israel is a nation of Jews. It has nothing to do with religion. It's because Israel was created in a colonizing effort led by Britain and the U.S. and immediately initiated 76-plus year pattern of occupying, displacing, terrorizing, and murdering the inhabitants of not just Palestine, but of Lebanon, of Egypt, of Syria, of Jordan, of Iraq. This is about the actions of the Israeli government. It's important to be clear that this is not about the people that live there. This is not about the religion. This is not about Jewish people. This is about what a government has done for over 76 years. And again, the important point here, the one power that could put an end to this, that has the ability to put pressure on the Israeli government to, at the very least, curtail some of these extreme actions. The U.S. has the ability to do that and simply is deciding up to this point not to do anything.